We got a big winner in healthcare and biotech. George Tsilis is looking at Protagonist Therapeutics. George, Protagonist Therapeutics, PTGX, up 46%. George, what's the story they're telling?
Well, obviously, a great move for an individual stock today, OJ. And this is an interesting play on some of the aspects of inflammatory diseases and also hematology. So there's actually quite a few catalysts for this biotech company. I'll explain in a sec. But there was a main catalyst today that they reported some very positive phase 2B data associated with an oral pill that they are actually developing in conjunction with Johnson & Johnson for ulcerative colitis, which is actually becoming sort of a chronic illness for many folks. And there's a lot of other treatments that are a little bit more evasive, but an oral application is something I think the market is really looking for. And so they generated some very positive results. That caused a huge move to the upside in the stock. But even if you go back not too long ago, the company's actually received some positive data in conjunction with Takata Pharmaceuticals for a hematology drug that deals with blood clotting, which is a byproduct of a certain type of blood cancer. They're actually in phase 3 trial in that regard, but they also have another drug that's in phase 3 for dealing with plaque psoriasis, another oral ingestible drug, which typically for this type of disorder, there's topical ointments that are used. So with that said, there's some very positive catalysts for the company. The stock made a nice run today on top of the phase 2B data associated with ulcerative colitis. But the company is becoming, if you look at its income statement, particularly in the last year, they're generating more collaborative licensing revenues, where last year they generated $280 million. And this is primarily in conjunction with Takata and Johnson & Johnson. And it's important because if you look at 2023's sales, they generate around $60 million. So there was a big leap in 2024 in terms of top-line sales. Again, these are collaborative licensing deals with major pharma companies. But with that said, there's a possibility that in 2026, they get approval in some respect for at least 2 of these 3 drugs. And I think that's also a positive catalyst on why some of the analysts are still bullish, including if you look at Truist, they increased their price target on the name to about $76.
Okay, so they're getting some coverage now. It seems like also the market's pretty hungry for biotech, healthcare-related picks right now. Regeneron had a good day, too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the market's really challenging right now, OJ, but, a lot of times there's some clues that perhaps, this market may move higher in the short term. Obviously, not everything is selling off. And in fact, some of the biotech names have actually performed, I would say, quite well relative to the market. So that might be telling that there's still some growth appetite for, growth stocks, particularly, again, some of the growth areas in the pharma space. But with that said, there's always going to be good stocks and a bad tape. This happens to be one that's a good stock and a bad tape. There's also, like I said, the positive catalyst for the business, but they do have plenty of cash. Because if you look at, not without getting too convoluted, there's an unusual credit that the company received, and that was a licensing agreement they received last year. Outside of that one particular item, the company's losing about $182 million in expenses per year, but they have close to $500 million in cash. So they've got some runway in cash at the very least to potentially into 2027. So for what it's worth, there are plenty of catalysts, plenty of cash, not too much debt, and the collaborations they have are quite meaningful. So I think this is one to keep worth watching.
Okay. All right, nice. Interesting one. It seems ulcerative colitis has a lot of marketable potential given the number of companies that are attacking this particular issue. So it looks like they might be taking a lead out front with the application of it. Thanks, George.